So I'm Audrey Lewis, Associate Curator at the Brandywine River Museum, and I have the honor of talking to Bob today. And I guess if we have to classify Bob, you could say that he is a contemporary realist artist who is working in the long tradition of trompe-l'oeil painting, also known as fool the eye painting, which is a highly realistic painting that creates an optical illusion of three-dimensionality. But that is only part of the story, as we will see. First, Bob has taken a unique path on his way to success as an artist. After graduating with a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Delaware in 1986, he spent 5 years working as a radio systems engineer with Motorola. And for the next 6 years after that, he was an assistant pastor for a church in Maryland. But since 1997, he has been working full-time as an artist, has exhibited throughout the United States and has had many solo and group exhibitions. His first solo museum exhibition was at the Evansville Museum of Art in 2012, called The Rye Theater of Robert Jackson, and I just really like that title. It seems so appropriate. And his career has flourished even more since then. There was recently a solo show at the Art Gallery in Boston, and in late February, very soon, he'll have a show at the Mattituck Museum in Waterbury, Connecticut. This fall, he will have another gallery show, this one at Gallery Hannock in New York City. And his work is in many collections. I'm going to mention a few. The New Britain Museum of American Art, Seven Bridges Foundation in Greenwich, Connecticut, the Delaware Art Museum, and the Brandywine River Museum of Art. So I'm going to now pass it on to Bob. He's going to give a presentation, and then Bob and I will have an extended conversation after he runs through his part of the presentation. So here you go, Bob.
Okay, thank you so much, Audrey. And I appreciate everyone showing up. This is really nice. I unfortunately filmed a video of my studio because I'm not in my studio today because of the snow. So this worked out perfect. So Laura is going to start that for it, and I can give you a little bit of a tour of what my studio looks like. So this is it. My studio is in downtown Kennett Square, Pennsylvania. I have rented from the American Legion for 13 years. I shifted over to this space about 3 years ago. That is an old storefront, has a great big picture window that as I finish new paintings, I throw them in the window. I also throw my props in the window, do everything possible to make it entertaining for my community since I don't open the door. Usually once a year, I might have it open to the public, maybe twice. Not once during COVID, so that's the case. This is my door, also made it fun. I painted it like a Piet Mondrian. Also above the door, you'll see I did a trompe-l'oeil painting of paint cans, paint brushes that match the colors of the painting of the door. This footage is kind of funny. My neighbor next door has a drone, and he started filming it knowing I was going to do this. And I didn't know he was doing it. I hear this shout, Bob, open your door. And that's why I was laughing. That wasn't planned, but all of a sudden this drone comes into my studio, and this is it. So this is where I work every day. Have 2 chairs there that I got during COVID in the hopes that someday people will visit me again. There's 2 rooms to the studio. You see a back door there that takes you to the back room. This is the front room, which I try to keep clean and open. It's just my workspace. Here it is from the back view of the easel, and seeing that window there. The thing I love about having that picture window, it's 6 by 12 feet of north light. So most days I never have my studio lights on. People will tell me they stopped by and I wasn't there. I was usually there. I just don't turn on the lights because it's so nice. But typically, this is my view. I sit there right here with an easel to my left. To my right is my palette where I squirt out my paints every day. My son actually made this video for me. So in it, he liked these stacks of paints because they look like little monsters, but that's how they squirt out every day. Here is the most recent painting I was working on. It's a piece called Collapse, which I'll show a little later. But as you see to the right, I have an old toolbox that's filled with all my brushes are along the top. All the paints are in the drawers. I have my balloons for my balloon dogs in that cabinet. Everything's right there so that I can work and access everything pretty easily. Back behind me, I have a little table there, as you see, where I have my sketchbooks because I'm always coming up with ideas and new thoughts. This is basically what my sketchbooks look like. I have colored pencils sitting there and pencils, and I try to keep full of ideas. As a still life painter, I have a lot of props. So I buy a lot of them from eBay when I need them, and they have filled this display case. So I'm about ready to put a second display case in my studio because people seem to enjoy looking at them. So when I go to the back room of my studio, it's much more of my man cave, as people say. It's my inspiration room. So I have drawings that I collect along the walls. I have all my art books back there that I like to look at. All my crates are stored back there. As you can see, they go floor to ceiling there in the back. Back behind those red curtains are extra canvases, so I try to keep plenty on hand. There you go. That's the couch I can lay on and look up at my artwork that I collect. These are artists from all over the country. I have drawings here. I keep paintings at home, but a lot of friends there. Same with the books. I kind of tend to think of my books as friends too. People see me walking around Kennett at lunch. I usually have my sketchbook and an art book. That's how I've learned a lot of art is looking through those things constantly. And that's from that wall of crates back there. Yes, I do have all my crates. People look at my paintings and ask me all the time, do you really have all those? Yeah, I have way too many, probably 200 of them or so. But hopefully that gives you a quick overview of the studio since I'm not sitting in there right now and let you see. And I think right before we go back to Audrey, we wanted to show just a couple of my other works, right? Was that the plan?
Yes, I'm just pulling it up and I'll have it up in just a moment.
Sounds good, no problem. Yeah, people know my work here locally. They see it at the Delaware Art Museum. They've seen it at the Brandywine River Museum. They might see a few pieces. Different people in my different galleries see other work. So I thought, let me just show you a real quick smattering if you haven't been to my website, and you can kind of see what else I've been up to. And then Audrey and I can talk through all the questions we have together.
And Bob, what is your website title? Or
just robertcjackson.com.
Okay, because I say it's a really good website for if you're interested in seeing more of Bob's work.
I appreciate that. I make my kids do everything. So my son made the video for me. My daughter does my website for me. So, hey, it's a family business. So just to give you an idea of other works, since both the two local ones, the one at the Delaware and the one at Brandywine are both the flat trompe-l'oeil type paintings. This one's much more of your traditional, well, not a traditional still life, but a still life. This one's called Constructing. It's 40 by 30 inches. That's pretty much my go-to size. I keep stacks of 40 by 30 canvases. So we can go on to the next one. There we go. So this one, as you can see, I do like playing with Oreos. I've painted them a bunch. This one is called Phases of the Milk. It's 36 inches by 72 inches. And kind of like the phases of the moon, I was rotating the milk carton, thinking through that. Go to the next one. This one here is called Masterclass. Once again, a 40 by 30 inch, like I mentioned. This one, just as a quick funny thought, it was thinking of these little figures that are advertising to kids to get them to eat their cereal or their food. I thought they had to learn from the masters from Looney Tunes. So here they are brushing up. So the next one, I look to remember what I have. This is myself as a still life. This one is it's probably 70 inches by 34 inches, I think. It's actually my only figurative work I've ever shown. It has a long story for a whole nother time, but I just thought I've stacked so many things on crates. I might as well put myself on a crate once. So, and then this one here, I actually painted during COVID. It was a commission It is 40 inches by 48 inches. I had a client who loved the Oreo pieces. A lot of times people look at my Oreos and think of them as like a cityscape, because they kind of do look like that. I stack them up so high, and I thought they also had just recently gotten a new puppy. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny to do a Godzilla type piece or Dogzilla and have it jump up into the still life and knock it over? And they loved the idea, so I did it. So that was a commission during COVID. Okay. This one is called the Artist's Touch. It's 48 inches by 48 inches. It's just one I like a lot. It feels very abstract to me. It was actually almost really two paintings. It was the painting of the crates, and then I had to come back and do my handprints on it afterward. Happens to be the one behind me in the picture that the Brandywine was using to advertise this show. So it looks like I'm in front of a stack of crates, but it's this painting in progress. And I think the final one I did, simply because the Brandywine River Museum has Jamie Wyeth with all his seagulls, I thought, oh, I better include a seagull painting in the slideshow. But this one's called Dream Home. Anyone who goes to like the Delaware beaches and walked down a boardwalk knows how much seagulls like those fries. I thought, what a dream home would be making a nest out of French fries. So just had a little bit of fun there. As you can see, I have fun with art. So, and now I'll pass it back to you, Audrey.
Okay, and they do steal the fries from you as you're sitting on the beach or even on the boardwalk. They're pretty aggressive, as Jamie Wyeth has shown in his paintings. Okay, so I just want to give a bit of a background on how Bob and I met and the history of his relationship with the Brandywine. Our formal relationship really began in 2010 when he was asked to be part of an exhibition we were planning called Reality Check, Contemporary American Trompe l'oeil. And I had become aware of him just a few years earlier at the Somerville Manning Gallery in Delaware. And I was immediately struck by his use of brilliant color and his innovative, playful content. I was looking for contemporary trompe l'oeil artists who were moving beyond the traditional 19th century trompe l'oeil style, looking for somebody who was creating innovative takes on trompe l'oeil. And here was somebody who was using some of the tricks of trompe l'oeil, but also with a contemporary edge in style and content. And so the colorful soda crates that he used as a backdrop of apples and stage scenarios of apples and balloon animals or other familiar objects and situations with with an underlying twist, like in, could you advance? I forgot I didn't have control. There we go. Okay, so this is Target the Artist, and this was a painting that Bob included in our exhibition, the American Contemporary Trompe l'oeil exhibition, and it really struck a chord with me for many reasons. We'll talk about them more in depth in a little bit, but just want to get you to see the trompe l'oeil aspect of it. Often trompe l'oeil paintings of the past would have a flat door or a panel of some sort with objects hanging on with nails or some string to create that illusion of 3 dimensions. And here Bob creates such a good illusion of this balloon animal taped to the target. And its meaning is very significant. And I think when we get a little bit further, we'll talk about that. And I like what he is, that he's knowledgeable about art history. So his paintings sometimes have subtle references or commentary on the nature of art or art criticism. In this particular case of art criticism, and the title will tell you, Target the Artist. But I was equally impressed by his very generous spirit, and he's been a great friend to the museum, has had great success in the years since that 2010 exhibition, which I'm really happy about, and I'm delighted to have this conversation with him today. So I want to get started just discussing this painting and general question for you. Were you artistic as a child?
It's, I always knew I could draw, and I liked drawing, but I don't remember ever thinking it was something serious. Meaning, when I went to school, I loved gym, and you loved recess, and you loved, lunchtime, and you loved art. I assume that's the way everyone was, but I later found out not everyone loved art class. But for me, it was just playtime, and I never thought that it would be a future.
Yeah. Well, I know from your background that, as we mentioned, you were an engineering student at University of Delaware. And I understand that the first art class you took was as a senior in college. And I wanted you to discuss how that came about that you took that art class, because I thought that was an interesting journey.
Sure, sure. So my girlfriend, who's now my wife, gave me a set of oil paints for a Christmas present. That was senior year, Christmas present. We're both about to graduate, figure out our lives. She gives me oil paints. I had no idea what to do with them. Enrolled in Painting 101. Thought, oh my goodness, I love this better than any class I took in college. So yeah, that was the first time I've ever touched them, and I was ready to run.
Did you feel like you had a kind of epiphany or an aha moment? Something happened specifically that just made you realize that this was what you wanted to do, if you could do it?
Yeah, it was, like I said, I liked it better than anything I did in college. And the professor, it was pretty obvious to him, a guy named Bob Straight. He said, boy, you love this. Why don't you stay on, get a master's, or you should do this. And he said to me, I would love to. And he goes, well, how do you want to make your living? And I said, what do you mean? I'd love to make my living doing this, if that's what you're saying. And he goes, yeah, but how do you want to make your living? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, most artists have to do something else. The majority of them become art teachers. The rest work other jobs. And I said, nah, I want to be an artist. And if I have to take another job, I've got an engineering job lined up. So I guess I'll do that.
Yeah, I remember reading that you did make art in a sense while you were going through the years, making doodles on your engineering notebooks.
Sure.
And I was curious, were they mostly related to engineering, or were they more fanciful, headed in the direction of these rather playful works that you have committed to in all these years?
Yeah, it's funny. School for me, I'm such a visual person. The professors sound like, Charlie Brown adults, where you hear that wow, wow, wow. So I doodled constantly in my notebooks. And so it might have been even just drawing my hands. I would do caricatures of other students. I'd be looking at them, drawing them. I'd draw my professors as I was doing. I never showed them. And I even remember in engineering, and I wouldn't even know what it is anymore. I called these little Gumby-like creatures I draw in all my notebooks MOSFETs, and they'd be playing around, walking around the notebook. And it was from metal oxide semiconductor field effect transistors, which I must have learned in an engineering class, having no idea what that means or does at any point anymore. But I do remember they were the name of my cartoon characters.
That's very funny. Could you advance, Laura, to the next slide? Okay, so I also read, and I know this was sort of part of your training after you left school, how interested you are and were in art history. And you often reference other artists, such as, in this case, Jackson Pollock, or Jasper Johns, Wayne Tebow. I've seen a number of references in your work. And I just wanted to know if you wanted to talk about that with this, because, all right, so just in general, Jackson Pollock, American painter, major figure in the abstract expressionist movement. He was widely known for what has been called action painting, in which he poured paint, technique of painting by pouring or splashing liquid household paint on a horizontal canvas. And he was able to view the canvas from all angles, and it was more like a spontaneous, more or less, type of action painting. So I enjoyed this painting for that reason. I enjoyed that the apples are in control of the painting. So what can you tell us a little bit about this?
Well, I sometimes feel, I'm glad my path was the way it was. That sometimes, early on, I used to be embarrassed, especially when I was talking at a museum. And I remember even at Reality Check at the Brandywine, everyone else was talking about their careers, their art degrees and all that. And I was the only guy on the stage without one. And I felt a little humiliated. but as time went on, I kind of like it. I sometimes find out that the art school, some of those people feel like, oh, it's the only thing I could have done. I can't believe I'm still doing this day. Me, this was my hobby. This was something I fell in love with and I enjoyed, and I still love it to this day. So these artists, I love going and looking at the art, and so I do reference it a lot. It's my interest. So
Yeah.
it is something. You saw that wall of art books. It's not just there for decoration. I grab one every day for lunch. I kind of look and go, which one do I want to take with me today? And so and visiting museums and all that. So it's all part of it.
Yeah.
I paint what interests me.
Right. And I'm going to ask to advance to the next slide, because this is another one of that sort, which I particularly love because it's so delicious looking. Starting the challenge, and you have all these donuts. First of all, what does starting the challenge mean? Is it a food?
Well,
Yeah.
you can see over on the left side, there's a bite out of the first one.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And then there's one cup of coffee over on the far right side. So, okay, we got a long way to go to get through this. So
Maybe it's a food eating contest, right?
well, I kind of love the idea of just excess, and
Yeah.
so I do it a lot. You say, paint an Oreo. I'm not painting one. I'm painting 500.
Yeah. And it made me think immediately of the painting below, which is Wayne Tebow, an California artist who was born in 1920 and is still living. He's 101 years old. There's an exhibition of his work touring the United States, and it's going to be coming to the Brandywine next year. So keep your eyes open for that. This type of work, these pies, this was a painting that he did at the beginning of his career, and there were a whole bunch of them. You might be familiar with them. They would be pies, they would be cakes, donuts, similar. But that idea of excess, I think, is similar, and just the beauty of it. There's definitely a beauty to these desserts, and of course desserts go back as a theme in still life painting back to the 18th century Dutch. Of course, they looked very different then.
Sure.
So just with looking at these, I know some of your favorite artists are Wayne Tebow. You mentioned others. What did, when you were starting out, was there someone that you particularly were drawn to?
Well, one of the nice things about my engineering job took me to the Washington, D.C. area. So down there, you have all those free museums, which was fantastic. The National Gallery, East and West Wing, the Hirshhorn. But at the beginning, my obsession was Rembrandt. I just used to love to go sit there, look at the Rembrandts, read his biographies. There was just that was it. That's where I started.
Yeah. And what a good master to learn from.
Yeah.
Just in terms of structure and shadow and realism, no one better really to start out with.
Yeah. And it was nice to, discover that, and you'd sit there, and the room next door would be the Rubens and things like that. And then eventually making over to the Hirshhorn and going, oh, people still paint today. To a certain extent, I was so uneducated about art back then that you kind of saw that, this was what they used to do back then. It was nice to go over and say, oh, it's still happening, and some people are creating in new and unique ways.
Yeah, and like you.
Yeah.
All right.
Hope so.
Do you have a favorite artist now, or are you particularly drawn to anyone in particular, contemporary?
Of course, I'm looking forward to that Tebow show you have coming up. But for me, I've been very deliberate. I do go up to New York all the time. I mean, now that I've had a gallery there, but even before I had a gallery, I used to go up maybe 4 times a year. I'd look through the magazines and figure out all the galleries to go see. Now I can just get on the internet, and I do still come up with my little map, so I'm not wasting time. I know which up and down the street and where I'm going and what I want to see. And so I do spend a lot more time looking at contemporary now. I just really enjoy seeing what people are doing, what peers and others are up to.
Yeah, I know. I met you in the Jamie Wyeth gallery probably 2 years ago, could be longer now. And you were really enjoying his work. And I thought for me, the juiciness of your painting and kind of the love of pigment and of paint itself put me to mind of Jamie, who does that as well. He just revels in the paint, the paint itself.
Sure. And you kind of hope to steal a little bit from everybody, right?
Yeah. So could you go to the next slide, Laura? Okay, so Bob, with your engineering background and probably your engineering mindset to a certain degree, I wonder how much that comes into play when you're constructing these complex, wonderful compositions where there's so much going on at one time and there's balance involved. And I know you set these up in reality sometimes, or is it more than that?
It depends. This one would have been impossible. So there's,
okay.
But I would have had the two structures set up, and I probably, little by little, I'd hold things with my hands. I put things on like paper towel holders and things like that to hold them up. I will string things from strings down from the ceiling. So, it doesn't look that clean.
Yeah. But I really like there's so much complexity in how they're arranged, even if it's just imaginative.
Sure.
They're trying to make their way across on the tightrope, and but they're fighting. It's a battle.
Sure.
Fruits versus vegetables. And there's a lot of playfulness, I feel, in this work. I don't know if there's further meaning that you would want to talk about, but I just really enjoy the idea of, and they're so rendered so beautifully too. Each fruit or vegetable had to be from life, I would think.
Yeah, I do. I'll sit there and I'll go buy them all. And it's funny because so often people ask me about my food, if I eat them all, like the stacks of donuts and stuff. No, they sit in my studio for days. They're nasty. So,
Yes,
a lot of this stuff is sitting there to like, oh, I want to finish it before it rots, but it's hard. So
yeah, I do remember you with one particular painting with the fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And is that on your website, Bob? The stop action video?
Yeah, those are in there. So I do have yes. So they're on my website where you can see it. Yeah, I think those might have been even escargot that was in that painting.
That was it, yeah.
Ooh, you don't want to leave that in your studio long.
All right, so let's go on to the next slide, please. And I'm just going to ask you, I had read the 2012 monograph on you from what museum? Was that Evansville?
Yes. Oh no, the monograph, the book was just a book that was done. So,
and the author, Philip
Eliasov,
I thought he did a beautiful job of not only talking about your work, but just what he included, because he included many of your sketches, your studies, I guess is more accurate. And they reveal so much about your thinking process and words that give additional meaning to your actual final works.
Sure.
So I wonder if you would mind talking us through your process.
Sure. And I knew you were doing this, so I picked this one because it's a newer painting. This is Pizza Feast. So when I have an idea, and the way I approach art is, I'm not one of those guys that ever wants to sit down with a blank canvas, stare at it and go, oh, what do I do? And wait for inspiration, because it would just be painful for me. I keep sketchbooks. I carry them with me everywhere. My kids even kid me because I write on school programs, bulletins, whatever. I'm a newspaper. When I'm doing the newspaper, I carry a pen with me always, and I'm writing down ideas. So this is how an idea that started was, can I have balloon dogs eating the pizza? I always wanted to paint a pizza and thought, it's so hard because it's still life. It's a flat object. How am I going to paint a pizza? And for years I had in my sketchbook, well, I'm just going to nail it to the wall and paint a trompe l'oeil pizza. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I still will. But in this one, this is how a sketch starts. So it started like this, that I'll just have some balloon dogs eating a pizza and see if I can pull it off. And we can go to the next slide. I'll show you what the actual drawing when it gets away from the sketchbook looks like. So I decided to go quite big with it. I think this was 34 inches by 84 inches. So it's about 7 feet wide. I don't do the drawing on a big sheet of paper. I do it on the canvas. So I sat there and work it out and try to figure out my ellipses and where everyone goes. And in some ways at this level, when you mentioned before, like Pollock or these different people, it's a very abstract feeling. I try to make someone's eye bounce all over the canvas and, do I have enough interest at every spot? And so this is basically my starting point. And you can go to the next one. And I coat it in a yellow acrylic first, because the pencil keeps smearing if I don't coat it. So I cover it with the yellow acrylic. I like the yellow because it adds a vibrance that shows through my oil a little bit. I can scratch back into it with the back of my brush. Also in this one, like I said, I thought the pizza was going to be the toughest thing to do. So I always, some people start in the upper left corner and work down to the right. Other people bounce. I start with whatever's I think is going to be the biggest pain. So I went and bought the pizzas first and started painting them. So we can go to the next. And yeah, so I finished up the pizzas. I, for some reason, thought in my mind, and partially it's composition. I love the little twists of the arcs, but I decided the balloon dogs wouldn't like pizza crusts. Maybe they're too sharp for their balloon figures or something. I don't know. But so you can see I worked in the crust and then start moving in with the colors. And I kind of figure those out as I go. I like to keep eyes bouncing around. So I'm going back and forth with what colors go each where with the balloon dogs. Okay. And there I've gone. Now it's starting to come way more to life. It's always funny, and you'll see when you get to the last slide. I don't even know what it's going to look like till it gets done. I have it sort of in my mind. I have it set up to an extent like this is impossible to set up. The balloon dog's not going to hold a piece of pizza. So, I do kind of blow them up. I stick them around. I did kind of, I couldn't eat that. I can eat about 2 slices of pizza. So I had to kind of like cut them and bite them and throw them on the floor. So I kind of do it to see what they look like and space them around. But I also kind of thought it'd be fun if the balloon dogs kicked over one of their drinks. They're dogs, so they're kind of a mess. But we can go to the next one. And there you go. See, so when the background comes in, it's like, and people go, how do you start with that yellow? I don't know. It's just the way I've chosen to do. But it does give me a little bit of a vibrance. I do work off vibrant color. But boy, does it mute down. And in some ways, the balloon dogs now are the color, not that yellow. But you can see how I kind of triangulate things a lot between the yellows and the oranges and the pink. I kind of try to figure out how does someone's eyes bounce around a canvas. And that's how it looks like for the final piece. So that piece right now, Audrey mentioned the Matatuck Museum. I have a show that they asked me to do a complete show of balloon dogs, which is only about 15% of my paintings. And I thought, oh, bummer. But right now it's perfect in COVID. So that piece is, the opening is not this Sunday, but the following Sunday, February 28th at the Matatuck Museum. So that piece is hanging there.
And the balloon dogs, how did that start in your working method? Why balloon dogs?
It's funny, Audrey, because people ask me all that all the time because of Jeff Koons with his balloon dogs.
Right.
They go, oh, it's because you're playing with Koons. I actually was completely unaware when I started painting the balloon. I did it just about the same time he did. And it actually came from your guy, Wayne Tebow, because I like the idea of tapping into nostalgia. And he owns pies, cakes, ties, shoes, he owns everything. And I was at a Blue Rocks baseball game, which is, the little league, not little, the AAA team or whatever in Delaware. And there was a clown twisting balloon dogs, and there was a line of 20 kids. And I thought, oh, look at that. It's a still life object that people are drawn. It's a nostalgia that everyone loves a balloon dog. So, And once I painted it, I thought, ooh, they let me put personality in still life. If you're looking at that painting, it's completely static. There's no movement at all. It's a completely set up thing, but people are hearing dialogues, they're seeing and moving, they're imagining what's going on. And I love that I'm starting that in people's minds.
Yeah, there's just the way they face each other. They look as if they're in mid-conversation while eating their pizza. Yeah, I think it's kind of brilliantly composed.
Yeah,
And I admire that you had the restraint to only eat 2 pieces, because pizza is something that I would just not be able to stop. So, yeah.
You know, as I get older, you know, it just doesn't feel as good.
No, I don't know about that. But you know, afterwards it does not. So anyway, great painting.
Yeah.
So could you advance to the next slide, Laura? Okay, so these are 2 works. I think we're having a little trouble seeing this, but the Target the Artist is from 2009. It's owned by the Brandywine. The painting on the right is called The Apple Guy, and it is owned by the Delaware Art Museum. And really, they both have resonance of self-portraiture in them. Obviously, the one on the right, but I think that there's different meanings in them. And so I wonder about the function of that in your Target the Artist. If you could tell us a little bit about that, because I know you have a story about how that came to be.
Sure. You know, it's funny. I mean, most of the work's all self-portraits to a certain extent. I mean, heck, we live with ourselves, and it's my thoughts on these canvases. So it's funny how much it shows up in there. But Target the Artist happened right after Andrew Wyeth passed away. And I was reading some of the reviews. You know, art can be snarky at times. So some of the reviews were, he was really good if you like that sort of thing. It's kind of a patronizing thing. And I thought, you know, here's a guy that was just trying to put beauty in the world, trying to do his best. And so I kind of thought it was funny to, you know, put a balloon dog up here with a paintbrush in his hand right in the center of a target, you know, like, as soon as, I guess, anytime you're doing art, you're putting yourself out there in front of people, whether you're doing a song or a book or a piece of art. So, and there's all sorts of messages through that. You know, the soda crates I use, the words always mean something. So you've got Aero beverages, Pocahontas, you know, pop cola, but then you've got like life and love surrounding it. So, you know, it all goes in. There's a lot of story that you can play with if you look at these works.
Yeah, and it's very poignant too. I feel, I know after this came out, I thought a lot about that, because I had planned, we were planning a retrospective of Andrew Wyeth's work, and that was a resounding theme that came up over and over again, was how the critics responded to his work in his lifetime. And the beginning of his career was all good, and then things progressed as the art world changed. But now, like, he's more respected. I think there's a revival of interest in his work on the part of not just the people who loved him before, but on the part of critics and even, you know, art historians. But yeah, that's really vulnerability. And then on the right, Apple Guy, that's one of your motifs recurring, is the apple.
Sure.
And go ahead if you would.
Yeah, I remember, you know, back then, and now people say, oh, he's the balloon dog guy or whatever, or the crate guy. But back then I was painting a lot of apples, and I heard someone say he's the apple guy. And I thought of the Magritte painting and thought it'd be funny to actually make a realist version of that, where I tied a screw eye into my ceiling, draped a string down, put the apple in front of my face, looked at it and thought, now that my head's gone, let me surround myself with replacement heads of artists that are in my head. So, you know, what I'm thinking about or what might be in my brain. So those are all possible new faces for the guy back behind there.
That's really cool. Yeah, I like the objects or the artists that you've chosen. There's such a variety of them, you know, between Jamie Wyeth, Gauguin, and then is that Egon Schiele at the bottom of the, so, you know, very dark expressionist artist. So it really gets a sense of what you're thinking about. You know, it's not all just whimsical fun. There's more going, there's a lot more going on in these works, as you said, when you talked about the Andrew Wyeth work.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, Audrey, and I don't know if everyone sees it this way, but I think you can like the Ramones and Mozart, you know, and some people look at art and like, oh, do you like realism, or you like, you're allowed to like them both.
Yeah. So true of many things, that there can be
Yeah.
two things happening that are opposites seemingly, that we can all like.
Sure.
So the crates, as we talked about, are seen in so many of your works. And I wanted to go to the next slide just to talk a little bit about that, because they have function and they also have meaning. And I think that is interesting when you look back at the traditions of still life. And we just talked about a little bit about this, about how sometimes these works, or even the animals or apples or Oreos, are kind of stand-ins for you. But this one I just love because it's such a, I don't know, far-ranging. I haven't seen dinosaurs in your work before. And I wondered, did you start collecting these toys that we see in some of the works, or like nostalgic in nature? And is this influenced by your son in any way?
Yeah, well, you know, it goes a lot of ways. It's funny. Yeah, I had painted a bunch of dinosaurs, but this one, those were all my son's dinosaurs, so I didn't even have to buy any. He's always been a kid that just, when he gets into something, he wants them all. So when he had dinosaurs, he has every dinosaur. Now he likes Star Wars Lego action figures. So, you know, he's got everything. You know, there's always something with him, or Pokemon. But this one was actually a commission that I went up to a collector's house, and I had to, you know, it was up in New York City, and you have to ride up in the elevator to get there. And they showed me a space on the wall that was, you can see this painting's 108 inches wide. I first thought, I can't get that up an elevator. So it's a triptych. And I came up with the idea. They had 3 boys running around playing with dinosaurs the same age as my son. And I said, oh, I know what I'd like to do with that wall. Any chance you'd let me having dinosaurs having a feeding frenzy, that they're, you know, attacking a center panel. And I added in some extra things. You can see my balloon dogs in there. And then there's also a tauntaun from Star Wars, you know, that kind of looks like a dinosaur. So there's a couple extra things. But yeah, I just had a lot of fun thinking of this. You know, it's, once again, it's all static. You know, there's no movement at all in this. It's a still life. But and even the flying dinosaurs I have hanging from strings. I'm not trying to create this like, oh, they've come alive like Toy Story. It is a still life.
Can you advance to the next slide? Because really like the way you use the crates as places to create a still life in essence. And so that comes from a tradition of the tabletop still life, which I show you on the left with our James Peel still life with fruit on a table. And I like how you've completely kind of subverted that in your dessert on a table of sorts here, with, you know, calling in the contemporary with the fancy bakery cakes and all the spoons, plastic spoons, making it very modern. And I wondered if that's intentional, or were you thinking about turning that around in your work in terms of looking back at traditional still life?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I like the whole history of art. I enjoy it. I like looking back. So am I making fun of it? No, maybe we're making fun of what's going on today. You know, sometimes I see people that still try to paint like James Peel, and like, yeah, I think I love Peel, but we already did that. We've already done it. Let's move on. So I try to have, you know, what's a contemporary take on still life. So, and one of those things, like you just said, I wanted to get rid of the tabletop because I'm like, the tabletop's so boring. And I started finding these crates which have nostalgia, they have color, they have words that let me throw in there. So yeah, I try to move. Hopefully, I'm trying to move still life forward or act like I live today.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk about this dessert buffet in a minute, but could you advance, please, Laura? Yeah, I was just going to show this because I thought it was just a cool comparison of two trompe l'oeil approaches. There's this long tradition in trompe l'oeil painting of using a door or a board, a flat board, and hanging objects from it. And you use nails, you use strings, but here Bob has brilliantly used Scotch tape, and it creates such an illusion. I mean, with the shadows and the the lighting, this one really fools people, I think, more than any other that I've experienced. So I really enjoy it, and I just thought it would be fun to show it with another work from our collection that has similar tie, but completely different meaning. Of course, Indian relics being the subject on the left. Could you go to the next slide? Okay, so this is a painting that I enjoy so much. And I thought when I looked at your sketchbooks in the monograph, often you will have descriptions in the sketch or the study that are assigning more meaning to the work than you might guess if you just look at it as, you know, as what it is, you know, not looking beyond that. But could you talk about this? Because I read something about your meaning, that's one meaning behind this work, and I thought it was interesting because, you know, it could be about gluttony, but I don't think, and maybe that's your intention, I don't know. So,
Well, with that many people eating it, it couldn't be.
right. Well, that could be, you know, one person. Yeah.
It's kind of scary looking now with COVID. We have everyone
Yeah,
taking
we
their own,
couldn't do that now, right? Yeah.
this communal cakes. Yeah, so what was your question then?
Okay, so could be about sharing,
Yes.
you know, being generous more than just about a cool cake looking with wonderful, you know, illusion of plastic knives sticking out of it.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, and it's funny, Audrey, a lot of times I feel like that I'm like a director, that I'm
Yeah,
creating act one, scene one for the viewer. And I love the idea that it sits in someone's house or it sits in a location, and for years they create act two, you know, scene two, you know, they start moving through the story. And then I've met people and they go, oh, you know what this balloon dog over here is doing? Or you know what, and I love the fact that I'm creating dreamers, or I'm giving them art that just doesn't become wallpaper, you know, because
yeah,
art can. I mean, I've walked through the National Gallery, and there's some rooms you just you get blind to it. It's hard to keep looking, and then certain ones want to talk to you. So I kind of like to just let people take it and run with thinking about this, you know, porcupine-looking cakes, and see where it goes.
yeah. I would think you get lots of letters from people, and if you've been in the galleries and eavesdropped on conversations, it must be interesting to hear what people are saying about your work.
It's funny, you know,
Yeah.
and my studio window in Kennett, I can hear people and kids knock on my window 10 times a day. Not that they are knocking to get my attention. They're pointing and tapping and
Ah,
and they look, and they start talking. So I hear a lot of that.
that's very cool. Yeah. So let's see. The next one. I just wanted to do your works. Obviously, your everything is a little bit self biographical. Do your works reflect concerns, changes in your life as, you know, since 1997, different themes that might have emerged?
Sure. I mean, you grow and you change. I mean, when I first started painting out of school, I just painted still life. You know, meaning, you know, you paint an apple with a wine bottle, or you paint some flowers, or you go to an antique shop and find something that looks interesting and you paint it. And it completely started evolving over that time. And I just let it be more and more of myself. And, I'm comfortable with what I'm doing now, and
Yeah.
I find life, I guess there's the comic and the tragic, and
Mhm.
lean way more towards the comic, and
Yeah.
I kind of find it a little funny. Yeah, and so I kind of, pick fun of life a lot.
Yeah. Well, I know we're getting towards the end and I need to wrap it up, but I wanted to show just the last two, skip the next one and then then show the next one. Okay. Because I asked Bob if he has like created any works during the last year with all the COVID lockdowns and just the general process that we've all had to endure for the last year. I wondered if there's any works that emerge from that reflect any of that.
Yeah, and I gave you these two slides because I'm like, I don't usually mean to, and I think
Yeah.
that happens a lot. It's so much as subconscious. You're feeling things, you're thinking things. I write ideas in my sketchbooks, and this piece I kind of had to laugh. This is Collapse, which was painted here during COVID, and usually I have this nice stack of Oreos, and it's organized, and there's balloon, and I kind of thought of just, oh, what if they all fell? And I'm like, geez, maybe that is COVID. So, but I also love it as an abstract piece. The darks, the lights. I think it's a really interesting composition. So, but that is, I think, must have a little bit of COVID influence. And we can switch to the next one too. I can show you this one. I didn't mean to at all either. I thought of about, when a fish tank breaks and you go, quick, 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 give me a glass, give me a glass. You're scooping up all the fish and putting them all up there. And then my twisted humor of one of them's in a blender. The whole thing I thought was funny. And I showed it to my buddy, Dan Sprick. And he goes, ooh, that's a sad COVID piece. And I said, why? He goes, everyone's alone in their own little isolated chamber. And I went, oh, I wonder. So this was painted during COVID also. I'm like, maybe these things are coming out. I'm not going COVID because, people
Yeah.
said you should paint balloon dogs with masks on. I don't want to remember this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wasn't trying to remember this either, but
Especially, I love that interpretation though. Of the everyone's alone.
yeah, that was for me. It was more of a rescue.
Yeah.
So-
Right. Right. Things can be read many different ways.
and I love that. So
Yeah. I'm Laura. I guess we're at the end of our time. Is there time for questions? I want to thank you, Bob, first
Oh,
of all,
thank you.
for the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So yes, we had a few questions come in that I'd be happy to read. I think we have time for at least a couple of them. Bob, someone was asking, and it was when you had the painting fruits versus vegetables up. You mentioned a little bit about the crates that, the ones that you choose to paint, but with the lettered blocks, do you choose specific letters for anything?
Yes, and I don't want anything so blatantly obvious to have it, so bold. So I'll change from the different faces of the blocks, and I'll twist them in different directions. So they all do have words in them. So usually anytime I have blocks, it's saying something. So I can't, I haven't looked at that painting in a long time, but I'm sure it's in there. And half the time people go, what is it? And I go, hang on a second, and I'll look at it. And, I have to twist it because it's funny. If you twist the words, if you had the word war, but the W is upside down and the A is side, it takes your mind a sec because this is mar, or, like you, and then you go, oh, the W is upside down. So yes, I'm sure it's there.
Thank you. Someone else asked, I think possibly a little tongue in cheek, but about accounting as an artist. What's that like when you're buying donuts and cakes, and is any of this tax deductible for you?
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said before, do I most of the time they unfortunately go to waste. There's certain things, like I remember when I painted a lobster, I'm like, I'm not letting this guy go to waste. I was taking pictures of it. I cooked him downstairs and started painting him, but I'm like, I gotta eat this. but the donuts and stuff, I don't need to eat a lot of donuts, so. Nor the Oreos. And the Oreos, they get stale too. I mean, just by sitting out, they need to be closed up. So yeah. And I actually glue gun them together a lot. So even to make a stack of Oreos, I'll glue them so that they stay there because they'll fall over.
Yeah,
You drive one truck drive down the road out in front of my studio and they're gone.
can't eat them after that.
No.
Well, I have one final question. Someone was asking, is there one topic or object or concept that you've wanted to paint but haven't achieved to your satisfaction yet?
Ooh, it's funny. I'll go back to a Tebow quote. Tebow said one time, and I'm horrible at paraphrasing, but he said something like, "There's nothing wrong with going to the same well, just dig deeper." And so, sometimes people talk about having a motif or a theme. I don't mind going back. I saw that, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's good. Just do it better, do it bigger, do it. Go for it." And so. I do do it. What am I going to do in the future? I don't know. I mean, it just keeps evolving in the sketchbook. And sometimes there's a new idea that you're like, oh yeah, that's happening. And then other ideas you're not going to touch. So a lot of things in my sketchbook, I never draw. I never paint, but it's good that they're there so that I can weed them out.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, both Bob and Audrey. I think we all enjoyed this so much. We're glad to know more about your work. And I hope some of the people in the audience are able to connect with you in the coming months.
Sure. More than welcome.
All right.
Go to my website, you can write me.
Sounds great. And I think that's robertcjackson.com.
You got it.